Improvisational theatre, or improv, is a form of creative stage comedy performed unplanned and unscripted. Andy Kaufman, an influential improv comedian, rose to fame when he experimented with unexpected comedic acts. Kaufman made cringe comedy possible. Some people even referred to him as an anti-comedian or Dadaistic comedian. Dada is an artistic movement that explores art using humor, irrationality, and creative contradictions. Marcel Duchamp, an artist most associated with Dadaist ideas in the early 20th century, termed his works ready-mades. Ready-mades transform conventions of visual art, and they are made by combining more than one utilitarian object to form an artwork. Duchamp did with modern art what Andy did with comedy. DADAism experiments with laws of chance and frees language from conventional syntax. Tristan Tzara even made an instruction to create a Dadaist poem consisting of jumbled letters and words. Mechanical Head by Raoul Hausmann, leader of the Berlin Dada group, argues that man has no more capabilities than which chance has glued on the outside of the skull, and that the head is given identity by the objects stuck to it. Hannah Hawk, also part of Berlin Dada, helped establish photomontage and collage as a typical Dadaist technique. During her career, Hawk made feminist pieces and explored ideas of gender roles. One principal ethos of Dada is denying the market of objects that could be commodified. Banksy, the street artist, shredded his work called Girl with Balloon during an auction immediately after it was sold for more than £1 million. He shocked the world, recalling Marcel Duchamp, who first placed a urinal in a museum exhibition. Banksy's provocation is aimed at confronting the traditional vision of art and denying consumerism from downgrading art into mere commodity.
On to adhocism. Adhocism is a 1960s movement born as a response to the rigidity of modernism in search for new forms of expression. Adhocism comes from the Latin phrase ad hoc, that means for this particular purpose, and is also an adjective describing temporary, provisional or improvised methods to deal with a particular problem. It is an innovative manipulation of limited resources immediately on hand for the resolution of present needs. In Charles Jencks' lecture where he advocated for the case of adhocism, he talked about the act of creation by Arthur Koestler. In this book, Arthur Koestler attempted to develop an elaborate general theory of human creativity. From comparing many different examples of invention and discovery, Koestler concluded that creation is a bisociation of two different matrices that haven't been joined before into a new matrix of meaning by way of process involving comparison, abstraction, categorization, analogies, and metaphors. Then he went on to talk about this interesting story behind the Duckbill Platypus, which he believes is the mascot for adhocism. So the Duckbill Platypus was discovered in the 1790s by a British explorer who sent it back to the biological investigators of the Natural History Museum. So they looked at it and said it must be a hoax because such an animal that looks like it has parts that came from different species clearly cannot exist. But then they dissected it to try to find stitches, but they couldn't find any. The more you look at it, the more it becomes a problem philosophy. It is a mammal, but it lays eggs. It looks like a duck, yet it walks like a reptile. And it basically insulted our whole classification system. Fast forward by 100 years, it became a character in cartoon, and then the platypus emerged as this ugliest, most well-loved animal in Australia. And after that, he talked about this duck rabbit problem that was part of a series of experiments conducted by psychologists in the 1950s to try to tease the way the human mind works. So depending on how you look at this image, it could either be a duck or a rabbit. So what he wants to say is that, when you let go of our culturally indoctrinated way of looking at things, you could often see something new or unsee the way you typically understand things. These are some products or works under the movement of adhocism. From all this, you can tell that a certain kind of necessity features in adhocism because it looks like everything has been put together as if someone has been blind from an aesthetic point of view. But he has a kind of innocence of purity of purpose, something highly expressive of where the parts came from and what their previous history is. So adhocism, it forms the fundamental of a time city where diversity and plurality are recorded, creating a physical environment with a far greater density of meanings.